Well, it won't be long. It won't be long. Um, just recently in the newspaper, and recently by that I mean here in May of aught 2, 2002, they started to implant small chips into human beings. Now, they didn't come anywhere near planting them in the brain, but people are talking about that. They already started that with a few of these science shows in the 90s. And pretty soon they'll have it. Um, they'll have the technology, and they'll have it miniaturized so that it won't do any damage to be actually put into the human brain. Now, they're claiming that they use it right now just for medication purposes, so that you'll never lose your the list of prescriptions you need, the important, valuable items that are so necessary to your personal identification. Now, you see where they're leading this to. They have a climate now of terrorism in the world situation, where they are clamoring. People are beginning to question democracy. In government, they're beginning to say, well, look, you can't say things like that because, after all, we're in a state of war. What state of war? I mean, where's the battle? Where are the thousands and thousands of soldiers and the atomic cannons and the missiles and where are the tanks? I mean, it's the mother of all battles that Saddam Hussein waged. Just lasted a little while. That was in the early 90s. So I think it was over in a couple of days. Where's the war? They've created this climate. Now you can say that maybe they don't know any better, but the situation is coming up where everybody is going to get one of these chips. We knew this would happen back when they started plopping those little things about the size of a grain of rice into the ear of dogs. Now all you do to read that is you simply have the electronic gear, and you can tell who and what the dog is. And they tested it first on the animals, and now next they have these volunteers that are all going to be injected or implanted with these little things. And it's no big deal, they say, just lives in your body in a certain place, or it doesn't live there, but it's planted there. For identification purposes, you have to have them because, after all, we want to make sure who is a terrorist and who isn't. Blah, blah, blah. They always like to use these lame excuses for everything, and these people believe them, and, they may actually think they're right now. They may think this is happening like this. But I can tell you something. This already existent terrorist situation, it seems to be convenient. It almost seems contrived by human beings. But, okay, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Let's say that they're very upset. It's described that the United States, the people of the United States, is described, are what they call a reactive people. They have to have something happen to them first, like a Pearl Harbor or a September 11th scenario. And that's pretty bad when you have to have a situation like that. But now, it doesn't do much good to say, well, all right, it's too easy, it's too facile for something like that to actually be planned. How could these guys get away with that so easily? You say, well, it was no easy thing. They were highly trained. After all, they were all educated. They were the equivalent of top agents, each one kind of like a 007, They were infuriated enough to become kamikazes and fly those jet planes full with jet fuel into the Twin Towers of New York City, and also into other targets such as the Pentagon. Now, the thing is the Twin Towers where the most damage was done. And I saw those Twin Towers going up, back in the early 70s, 1970 and 71, when I was driving a cab in New York, and I could see the structure there, and I knew, even though I'm not an engineer, but I can tell you, not enough steel went into those structures. I saw them before they put the coating on those things, and they were really flimsy. And whether their motive was economic or otherwise, they were trying to save money, those things appeared to me to be insufficiently structured. They didn't have the internal structure for their size. Certainly not for the amount of weight of objects in there, including thousands of people. So they came down. It certainly couldn't withstand a jet fuel fire. So now we have this situation. But now I can tell you that it was planned. And I can tell you certainly from my education and my experience serving the Lord these years, I know that there are things out there, but I'm not going to blame human beings. Now you see where I'm leading with this. It's really something that these people do not believe. That this thing was staged by the devil. And it achieves the ends which that enemy is contriving to do. And that is to create a climate for his son, the Antichrist, the false Christ, in place of Christ. The Messiah, the false Messiah, but the type of Messiah that everybody in the world wants who doesn't want Jesus. They do not want the humble carpenter of Nazareth. So they want this real world conqueror, and that's what they'll get. So let's have a look at this, and let's have a look at this type of ID system. Shortly after the 111 or the 911, and that also is the phone number people call in case of emergency throughout the United States. Dial 911. You can get ambulance. You can get police if you're fortunate. There's no way to tell them to hurry up because they have their protocols they have to observe first. Because after all, this is a reactive society. You know what happens in a reactive society? A reactive society is something that is dull, thick-witted, huge, ponderous, slow-moving, slow to react. If you're stuck in a reactive society, your best bet is to get to the peripheral somewhere where you can get to the place where tactical activities do not like to be. And that usually is mountainous terrain. Although I'm wondering about that in the light of these new people that are emerging on the scene here. But you've got to be careful. We fight not against flesh and blood. But you see, they're going to want you to be identified. If you're not identified, they're going to imprison you. And I'm not sure exactly if they'll force you to receive this ID or not, because I think it's something that has to be your choice. That's one thing it's not going to work unless it is. But that's very interesting, because it only takes a little more in that chip to begin to get away from just mere statistics about who you are, what kind of medication you're needing or require, what sort of situation you need for support of any type. But they're going to put a few extra things in there. The operating system I'm using on this computer. Now, I've heard that it has the picture of the son of the owner of this operating system. I'm not going to mention names here. So that wherever he is, he can just press some buttons on a keyboard and see a picture of his kid. And that's embedded in the program. And there are other things in these operating systems that, unless you can write code and you're a computer engineer, you won't be able to get them out. Your best bet is to have your own operating system, but then you couldn't do anything like this. You have to have a battery of about 2,000 or 3,000 people working for about 5 or 10 years just to get started on an operating system like this. So you see how easy it is to put stuff in there. When you're dealing with the microscopic here, and pretty soon we'll deal with on a nano scale. Why, of course, they're going to be able to have a lot more in there than just identification and stuff. Sure, they tell you, there was an earthquake here along Lake Champlain, 5.5 on the Richter scale, and the only way we heard about it was through word of mouth. It was at 6 in the morning, and I guess we all slept through it, but it was felt as far away as Maine. And I thought, well, maybe for some reason it was in the countryside and they didn't figure they should report it. I mean, you get a 5.5 in Florida or California and everybody knows about it. It's spread throughout, but not here. They managed to hush up an earthquake. They have a saying that they don't want to disturb the people. The most disturbing thing for a populace is to not keep them informed. Because eventually, when something does happen and they find out about it, there's this humongous reaction that they won't be able to contain. So the thing is that with this thing, they're able to, if they're able to hide an earthquake, for crying out loud, and keep it out of the news. It might have been on CNN and stuff like that, but I don't know. Who's going to be watching CNN at like 6 in the morning? Maybe some businessmen, maybe some executives. But anyway, these chips are eventually going to be able to tell your orientation of thought patterns. They are going to be able to distinguish what you're thinking about. And they're going to argue and say, well, of course, we have to be able to monitor what each person's thinking about. We're not going to monitor your thoughts, like, for example, what your voting record is or anything. But we do want to keep track of whether or not you're going to be a terrorist or an assassin, or whether you're going to be a law-abiding citizen. Just think of the preventative, how preventative this will be for crime. Blah, 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 and on they go. Well, there's just one problem with all this. Human beings are not gods. They really aren't. They're going to mess up, and they're going to mess up big time. And all the people that are hooked into their system are going to be shorted out on a demonic tailspin into hell itself. And now they say, oh, now he's getting out with expletives and spectacular exaggerations. As one guy said when I was singing this song, in the metro, he said, "Oh, monsieur, vous exagérez." And I said, "Au contraire, monsieur, je exagère pas. C'est vrai. C'est le sacrifice humain. Bien le prêcher avec le sang de mort de guerre. Pour la production des armements." They're making a big business out of arm production. It's like a human sacrifice. Oh, what spectacular talk, is this? Well, guess what? They had a little problem here with the recession that wasn't. Boom. They start to have a little bit of a war. And all of a sudden, up go the stocks in what? Armament productions. Okay, so they want to be able to track your thoughts. Now, who are they? Brother and sister, in all fairness, you're not going. We could be talking about human beings here, but I'm talking about the spiritual forces behind them.